Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Community Services Committee for Maghull Town Hall. I would like to welcome members of the public who are watching this meeting via YouTube. Can we have apologies for absence?
Adam Lloyd, Councillor Adam Lloyd.
Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest for any items on the agenda?
No.
I might have. I spoke to Phil yesterday about antisocial behaviour up at Treeview Court. I don't know if he spoke to you about that, about adding something to the agenda for that.
Yeah, that's not a declaration. No, that's fine.
Well, it's just that my daughter lives there.
Okay. Public participation. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, public participation will be dealt with via the submission of comments or questions to the council prior to the meeting commencing. Anyone wishing to submit a comment or a question to the council must do so by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 9th of February 2021. Do we have any public participation?
No, Chair.
Thank you. And item 4, to confirm the minutes of the community services, members are invited to review the minutes of the meeting of the 4th December 2020. Can we confirm that they are true?
Yeah.
Of the minutes? Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Okay. Is that agreed?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Okay, thanks.
Right, Community Services Budget 2021 to 2022. Members are invited to consider the budget agreed at full council on the 27th of January 2021. I'm going to pass this over to you. Is it for you, Phil, to take over on this one?
I'm not going to dwell on it. I think the last meeting that you were presented with a worst case scenario, which amounted to about £16,500. Since then, the budget's been agreed and the actual budget for activities for next year is £24,460. It's still a reduction from the £31,000 of this year, but it's not as much as what we thought it could be. We just need to bear that in mind when we're talking about work programme, and we need to think about how we amend the actual activities and events that we might want to hold. Depending on when the pandemic finishes, we will not have the same amount of money as usual. It's worth noting that in particular, the youth budget has taken a big hit. It's been halved to £4,000 from £8,000. And the rationale behind that from the finance officer was that it hasn't been spent at all this year, largely because there's been no activities to fund. But I think we have a couple of suggestions that we could actually start using that money to better purpose this year. The money for Christmas activities has remained high because we found that we actually did spend quite a bit of money in the run-up to Christmas this year with the hampers scheme. And with giving provision towards the food bank. Again, depending on where we are for Christmas this coming year, we may want to continue with the hamper scheme at the level we had it, which was 100 hampers. We may wish to host a pensioners lunch. We may wish to do both. So I think it was felt that we'll keep that at a relatively high level. Community grants have roughly stayed the same. There is an item from Maghull and Bloom at the end of the meeting, Chair, which we can touch on then, but that's already been approved through full council from Finance and General Purposes Committee. So that's it really for the budget. It was just to keep you informed as to where we're up to. It's better than what it could have been. Is it in a nutshell?
Yeah, I've got a point though. With regard to the youth grant, the youth provision, I understand it's been halved because we haven't spent it due to lockdown. But coming out of lockdown, I feel that this is something that we're probably going to need to put a bit more money towards because, you know, the kids are going to want something to do.
Right.
So if we can start opening things up towards the summer, is there any wiggle room? Because, you know, I would like to see more activities on KGV Park and, you know, trying to give something fun for the kids to do rather than being stuck indoors.
Yeah, I think there's always wiggle room, as you say. It would have to come from another budget head. There's certainly wiggle room if you want to look at neighbourhood activities, what we take out of that. So whilst the budget is set at what it is, within the different budget heads, if it's approved by committee and approved by finance and general purposes, then we can via money between the different budget heads. I understand completely what you're saying, is if we need to do more activities for the kids, and we'll talk about that a bit later in the work programme. But yeah, there's a little bit of room there.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Doherty?
Yeah, I just wonder, I mean, with the summer coming up and maybe coming out of the pandemic, will there be any opportunities to get money from external grants, councils, governments, etc., to look at youth provision? Can we investigate that?
Again, I think that's something we'll talk about later, Councillor Doherty, in terms of using the data sets where we can draw grants from. But as approved at council, we have to spend quite a bit of our energies now looking at external funding. So that's certainly something that Siobhan and I have already started and will continue to do so in the next few months.
Okay, can I just ask members to switch their microphone off if they're not speaking, because it is interfering with the flow of the language in the meeting. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? I can't see any hands up. Okay, right, so we move, obviously we've covered item 5 and 6 and that one topic, the budget. So we move on now to item 6, Community Services Work Programme. Members are invited to consider the work programme, taking account of the new budget, pages 6 to 8.
Okay, I think this is me again, Chair. I provided you a brief just to outline the activities that we've undertaken the past few years in the broadest headings. So you have neighbourhood committees, events, which we haven't had any of last year. Christmas activities, which was a short burst of activity in the run up to Christmas with the hamper scheme and doing bits and bobs with the food bank. Youth provision, which we did put some money aside for to the parish hall for after school training for girls. They started that and then it got halted by the first lockdown, I think. I'm losing track of lockdowns now. And I need to go back to Val Bridges, the manager of the parish hall, and see what they intend to do to restart that or start again. But that was where the spend on youth had gone. And there's the community grants, like I say, which we spent a couple of claims were made towards the end of the financial year, or the end of the last year, rather. It was the radio station that we supported. And Maghull and Bloom have made their request for their annual grant of £2,000, which was approved at full council and Finance and General Purposes Committee. It comes out of that budget, though, so you have to bear that in mind when we're looking at provision for that. And again, we'll touch on that at the end of the meeting. I think what we need to do as a committee is sort of Claire's looked at the potential impact of coming out of lockdown and what's needed in terms of youth provision. I think we need to bear that in mind, that the money we've got, there's a little less of it, but we need to do the best we can with it. I think there's a consideration that we need to give about Christmas activities, and that will depend on where we are in terms of people having to isolate next year. Hopefully we won't be in this situation again, but just in case they are, I think we can reflect well on the success of the hamper scheme. It went really well. We got all the hampers out within basically a week. We were working closely with other agencies such as Sefton CVS, the Health Centre, the Children's Centre at Hudson, and we think we targeted people that we may not otherwise have reached. So we need to have a think about that during the course of the year. Do we want to repeat that? Do we want to expand on it? Do we want to match that with the pensioners' lunch, as I touched on before? I do think we need to look at the youth budget. There's a particular need at the moment from schools for people, for students that need laptops and provision for the internet. I wanted you to have a think about, can we help with that? If we get in touch with the schools and find out that there's a need, do we want to support provision of laptops or tablets via this budget so people can actually get in and do work? It still seems to be a bit undecided as to what date the schools will actually reopen again. But hopefully when they reopen this time, that will be it. It would be disappointing if we had to go into lockdown again and the schools were closed again, but who knows what this pandemic is going to throw up. the community grants we've got, we need to sort of promote and let more people in the town know that they're there. Because when you tell people, they sort of scratch their heads and go, oh, I didn't know the council actually made any provision for community grants. So my intention would be that we do a little bit of a promotion campaign about that. Again, as we come out of lockdown, so people are aware if they need support, there is a little bit of money there for groups that might require a little bit of assistance to get their activities up and running again. I think it's also important that we look at the services the council is providing in terms of support for organisations such as the food bank. We've done quite well in the run-up to Christmas because we had the ward money from Patrick, Councillor McKinley. We supplemented that as a committee. We took that out of some of the underspend. So I think we've done well. I've kept in touch, although I haven't been doing my regular visits because I'm staying at home at them, working from home at the moment. But the food bank are doing okay. They say that the demand has plateaued, but it hasn't gone away. And obviously with lockdown, there's a general concern that we're not missing anyone because people are isolating again. So there's quite a bit to consider there. In terms of events, we won't be doing any events until lockdown is ended. What we may want to do in terms of events after lockdown, I think is something that we'll need to discuss closer to the date, but we certainly need to start considering, for example, if we're doing an awards evening, do we want to make it a big awards evening to reflect all the efforts that have been made by the vast range of people across the town to keep people going during the pandemic? If we want to do an open air event like Maghull Fest or something of that nature, we'll need to time that very carefully because the last thing we want to do is bring people together and cause an outbreak or a spread. So I think that is going to be kept well on ice until we get the absolute green light from government to do that. Bearing that in mind, though, there may be little things that we can do as it begins to be eased to sort of bring about a sense of community spirit. And I know Claire wanted to mention, I think it's a good idea that we do something along the lines of a garden competition. So, Claire, do you want to have a little chat about that?
Yeah, basically what it was is I know Maghull and Bloom have asked us to give them some money towards obviously what they do. So I was thinking that maybe we could do our own Maghull and Bloom, because one of the things during lockdown, my garden kept me sane. It was a mess and I made it all pretty. And there's a lot of gardens around here that are really pretty. So I think we should, it's one way of getting people involved in something nice now and right the way through up until summer, so that they can be doing something to make them part of the community, and they can, you know, it'll make the place look pretty and lift everyone's spirits. And I think maybe if we do a proper Maghull in Bloom for the houses, Crosby do it, Lydiate do it. I know there's a lot of areas that actually do the Crosby in Bloom, Lydiate in Bloom, and you can win awards and you can get onto, I think Maghull and Bloom have mentioned it, where you get these judges, proper judges. But I was thinking we judge it from the town council perspective to start with, and, you know, maybe speak to Tony Almond or B&Q or, you know, maybe the Meadows Garden, and see if they will help sponsor that, rather than, you know, like for like. So we say £100 and they give us so much in vouchers, so we could do it, you know, get them to sponsor it like for like, and they could get their name on it. That way it's not fully coming out of our budget. We can get someone else to sponsor it on the back of that. You know, if say maybe Sefton Meadows were sponsoring it, we could put on there sponsored by Sefton Meadows. I'm just using them as an example. I'm not advertising. Other garden centres are available, and that could be a way of people going to get flowers, you know, and they're more likely to sponsor something like that, and then it's not going to cost us a penny. So I'm open to the floor. Has anybody got any ideas? Is anybody in agreement with that? Jonathan?
Yeah, I think potentially it's a good idea. I think got to be careful about like the naming of it, etc. Just make sure that it's completely, that we don't sort of like tread on Maghull and Bloom's toes, so to speak. But other than that, I think it's potentially a good idea.
Well, obviously we'd get Maghull and Bloom, probably one of their head people, to help judge it and you know, liaise with them and see if they are happy for us to use that, or Maghull Gardens in Bloom. It's open to, that's basically it. It's yeah. Any other questions? Anyone want to come in? no, I can't see any hands.
I've got my hand up, Claire.
Sorry,
Sure.
I couldn't see it. I can't see all the screen. So if you can just click that
That's
hand
okay.
icon. Pardon?
I think it's an excellent idea. I think maybe we could do it as a joint venture with Maghull and Bloom, because they're already well known. They've got some experts there anyway, and it might actually help promote them as well as us.
And I was thinking of doing it in conjunction as well with if we can run it alongside with Bobby's Wood opening as well. So we've got the whole of the fun things. So I don't know if Councillor Sharp wants to come in. You can put your hand icon on. Yes, I can see that you want to speak. I can't see all the pictures you see. Councillor Sharp, did you want to speak on this?
I think Councillor Mullen had a hand up for ages. Been waving at the screen for about 5 minutes.
Right, okay, sorry. I've just seen the hand icons. They've just come up. I'll come back to you, Councillor Sharp.
Like this.
Councillor Mullen, I can't see you.
No, Claire, no, I'm totally on board, but I think it's really good. I'm just thinking as well, because obviously some people haven't got gardens, so just, you know, anything maybe like the best pots, some best hanging basket, and obviously getting Maghull and Bloom involved. I mean, I think it might be really good to get the kids involved, you know, like the schools get their gardens set up. We can have, and like again, it's just, you know, I'm like about community. I just think get everyone involved as much as we can. And I just think, I think it's a brilliant idea.
Okay. Councillor Hughes?
I completely agree. It's a very good idea. I was just wondering, is it open to everyone in Maghull, or is it just people who are associated with Maghull and Bloom?
It'd be everyone. What I want to try and do is get everyone in Maghull involved in it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, a lot of the people that might enter are going to be quite elderly, aren't they?
Yeah.
Would you say? So I was thinking, is there anything you could do, like put it in the Champion or anything to advertise it?
I'm sure we could. Yeah, I'm sure we could.
If it's advertised on social media, I don't think a lot of them are going to
you're
notice.
Right.
Yeah, because I want it to be open for everyone, you see.
Yeah, because we've got a lot of, I suppose, care homes, and as Dee said there, as Councillor Mullen said, they might just have window boxes or hanging baskets, but it's got, the thing with gardening is everyone can do it.
Yeah.
And it's a simple thing to do. Councillor Mullen, did you want to speak again? Okay, I've seen you, Sean.
Sorry, just that quick. Just what Thomas has just said then. Obviously, because there's going to be a lot of elderly people, so there's going to be people who are a little like dead adventurous, aren't they? And people who think they've done well. So maybe just put it into categories.
Yeah.
If that's a thing we can do. Okay.
I'm going to bring Councillor Doherty in, and then I think Phil's got his hand up. Councillor Doherty.
Yeah, I was just going to say exactly the same. There's people in apartments, people in bungalows, so you could have best hanging basket, best window box, best small garden, best big garden. Yeah.
Councillor Sharp, and then I'll bring Phil back in.
Just about the diversity as well. I was thinking, like other people were thinking about, you know, the age groups, but one group we perhaps missed there is the children, you know, and getting them involved and interested. So I know some of the schools, you could be interested in a small garden area. And when I was looking at that, you know, that huge rear border at Bobby's Wood, we want the kids involved in that, you know, as well. You know, Hudson and St George's and Bumble's Nursery and Maghull High School. And I was tipped off by Don Billington some time ago. Not that he could offer that support at the moment. He's very busy, but the Royal Horticultural Society has links to sort of grants, say maybe up to £500. You know, if they put a good design in or a good idea in for you know, for a sort of a garden idea, and they did offer something like a mentorship for a period of time as well, because they had local experts. So I had hoped to tap into that, but so far I found out that the Royal Horticultural Society don't seem to do this at the moment, but they did give me some links that we could perhaps utilise. And if you do go on their website, you know, sometimes, I think sometime in March, there's something offered for schools and communities that, again, we could perhaps tap into and promote.
Okay, Councillor Councillor Mullen did mention getting the schools involved and getting their gardens to look lovely as well, because I know a lot of the schools in the area do have they grow their own vegetables and they have their own bug houses and that sort of thing. Phil, would you like to comment on?
Yeah. being a veteran of many a garden competition, what's been discussed there is bang on. I mean, just giving everyone an opportunity to enter and have a chance of winning in a category. I think for the next meeting, what you need to think about is what categories would you like. We can sort of draw up a long list, and then we can eliminate the ones that we don't think are appropriate. The other thing to think about is the time that you want it to run, because you need to give it people who have gardens generally like to have a bit of a run up, so they know they need to get the garden looking right for a particular time. So we need to sort of decide when we're going to do the judging, and then how are we going to deliver the awards. Obviously, if we can't get together, we'll just have to deliver them, but you may want to have a little event if that's possible for the winners. Just needs to be considered. Garden competition is usually really good at bringing together people in a community sense. You just need to do all the prep and give people enough time. If we can get a guest judge, that'd be great. Maghull and Bloom should definitely be involved, in my opinion. And a couple of yourselves can go around and look at the gardens. Presuming we're still allowed to walk around. We might have to shortlist if we get a load of entries coming in. So again, we need to probably consider what's the contingency for that, should that happen. But once we commit to it, I think we need to do all we can to publicise it, make sure we're clear as to what the geographical boundaries are. Because I know what happens in Maghull. People try and start cribbing if people from Melling or someone tries to enter. So we just need to be clear on the boundaries. And then fingers crossed, it'll be a really good event. And hopefully if we get a summer of any description, it should be something that helps people get out into the garden, get a bit of fresh air. As you say, Claire, helps with the mental health as much as anything else. And something that we can celebrate at the end of it. So fingers crossed, it'll all kick off. But if we could have a good think about it before the next meeting, Siobhan and I will put together a list of what we think are appropriate categories. Certainly want to include the schools and kids where possible. And now, like you say, with the elderly and the sheltered schemes, things like, window boxes and potted plants, we can do that. That's not a problem. We can just incorporate that as part of the overall competition.
Okay, Councillor Sharp wants to come back in.
Yeah, just one idea really was that the Scarecrow Festival wasn't very well done last year. Not many people entered it, and I just wanted a fun way of sort of combining the two. Perhaps, I don't know, as an idea.
Yeah, I would be all for that, because I love the Scarecrows and it's great for the kids and it's great fun. But that was just started on Facebook. That was one of those freak events that just started to pop up and take over. So and that's what made me think was this summer I seen the odd couple of Scarecrows, and then I thought, no, we need to do something with the gardens, because there's some beautiful gardens around here, and I really do think people should be praised for their good work and the hard work what they do throughout the year. And again, it's good, it gets everyone in the community spirit. It'll even get that competition going, your garden's better than mine. And I was thinking, if we can sort of say after the next meeting, look at going to get something in the paper then. And as you say, Phil, it gives everyone a good few months, because it does take a few months to get your garden looking right, and maybe look at towards the end of June, beginning of July. Councillor Mullen?
Got me getting all excited now, can I? Then I was just thinking, what are we going to do as like the winners' prizes? Are you going to try and go around some of the local shops, because obviously most of them are shut at the moment? So maybe just going to say Sefton Meadows and get a £50 voucher. Or if they can't do it, is there any way with our provisions that we can put something to that?
I'm sure we can, but one of the things I wanted to do was try and get sponsorship, because in all the fundraising that I've done before, the best way to do it is to get somebody else to sponsor it, because then it's not coming out of our money. Then it's cost neutral for us, and that's what I wanted. Whatever the way our budget is at the moment, we have got to try and do as many things as we can cost neutral. So if we can get someone to sponsor it, brilliant. It's not coming out of our pockets. All we're giving up is our time.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, because I know Morrison's always have flowers, don't they, outside? So because they always seem to be on board with quite a few things.
Home and Bargains are very good to sponsor things like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with Claire. We should go for sponsorship, but don't worry. We have provision within the budget, say events, because we're not going to get any events run till end of the summer at most. So there's money there we could take out of to provide prizes and to help host a little event. So, you know, it's all there if we need it.
Okay, brilliant. Cheers, Phil. Claire.
Okay, so going back to the rest of the agenda, have you finished your, do you want me to carry on with the rest of the agenda, Phil? What was that, what we've just spoke about on this report?
Yeah, I mean, that was just a part of the work programme.
Yeah.
If people are happy with just keeping the general headings of the work programme in place, that's fine. It gives us a little bit of, as you said before, wiggle room. We can do things within those headings. If we need to move budgets around, we'll come back to you and say, we think this needs doing, that needs doing. I think flexibility is going to be the watchword this year, because as events unfold, we'll probably find that our priorities shift. So we'll need to come back to you and say, could we do this? Could we borrow a bit of money out of that budget head and do that? And the main thing is we just keep communicating that to yourself so you understand what's going on and you approve it, obviously.
Well, can I just pick up on paragraph 3 when we're talking about getting the tablets out and internet for the kids in the area? Now, I spoke to Hudson School. They needed over 200 tablets for kids who didn't have them. And they'd been eligible for 16 off the government and they still hadn't sent them out. Now, if we are going to do this, I think it should be in conjunction with all 3 wards, so Molyneux, Parr and Siddell, and the ward councillors as well. Because the ward councillors may well even be able to tap into some extra funds from the Liverpool City region and from different pots. So if we can identify where that is, and I think maybe to start with, as you say, go through Hudson School, because that's the family centre. So any families who are struggling will go to the family centre rather than to their schools, because they've got all the designated families in the area who are at risk. So I think that's probably where we best start, and is the family centre, and do it in conjunction with the ward councillors and the Liverpool City region as well, because as I say, they've got funds from ward funds. And the same with you mentioned the food bank. I'll bring other councillors in a minute. Is this food bank in Maghull, is that the Trestle Trust food bank, or is that just the independent food bank?
Sorry, Chair. At the moment, it's part of the Trestle Trust, but they are considering becoming independent. They have some practical considerations, such as insurance, not that they're looking at. When I start returning to the workplace, hopefully in a week or so, I will go and pay them a visit. I've been in touch with the main leader there, Chris, and she said it's just an ongoing issue. They feel a little bit constrained by Trestle Trust and what they can and can't do.
Yeah. It's only three parcels a year, isn't it?
Well, essentially, yeah. I mean, but I don't know whether they're sticking to that. They certainly give out quite generous parcels from what I've seen, but then the demand was there. The run up to Christmas was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, a social worker turned up when I was there the week before Christmas, rang up last minute, turned up just after the events have closed, and literally went away with a Mercedes estate car stuffed to the gills with food parcels for 3 families. To see them through Christmas, because Kirby had run out, I think she was saying at that point.
Bootle had run out as well.
It was getting desperate. So, you know, there's an ongoing discussion between themselves at the food bank that we're not going to get involved with, but if they may well decide to become independent.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know, because I am aware that I don't know if other councillors are aware, the Trestle Trust, you have to be referred to the food bank by certain people, and you're only allowed 3 food parcels a year. That's it. That's all you're allowed. So families who are in a situation where they need regular food parcels, they can't get it. So there's a lot of these independent food banks popping up all over the country so that they can give out weekly food parcels. And I am aware where that's happening in most areas. Councillor Mullen, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, there was something else, but just want to go on the food bank thing. So if they go independent, obviously, because I think we've spoke about this, Phil, haven't we, a couple of times over at the Trestle Trust. If they go independent, then they've got a choice where they can, like, who they can refuse. Because I know we've discussed this before, but the Trussell Trust, you can get a ticket and you are allowed to go to anyone. If they come independent, there is a chance that they could turn around and refuse people coming from different areas, which we thought was a bit of an issue, because we don't want people stopping, coming. You know, it can't just be for Maghull. I think it should be for a lot of people, because there is a lot of people struggling. The other thing I was going to say, that was just on that one. I really still think we need to fight back on kids' mental health, young adults' mental health. I think there's been a lot of problem with it, and I just feel like we've just sort of, again, I always call it a brick wall. There just doesn't seem to be anything out there, nothing set up. You know, a lot of kids won't do anything on Zoom, and I just think, I mean, I'm racking my brain trying to think of something. I mean, if you can think of something that we could put together, because like I say, I'm really stuck at a crossroads here, and I don't know what to do, but I just think it's a really important thing, and I think we need to address it sooner rather than later. So if anyone's got any ideas, please, you know, just like email me or something, or email Phil. I just think it's something we do need to address.
Yeah, I agree, Dee. I totally agree. You know, it's what we do and how we do it. I think maybe Ross might be able to come in on that. Have you got any comments on that, Ross, with your professional experience? Is Ross there?
Try. How's that?
They can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think, I mean, there is that need, and we all know it, and there's that sort of age group that's a difficult age group for authorities and everyone else to look after, and I think that's, well, where a lot of our focus is at the moment. But I really do think, along with Councillor Mullen and yourself, we need something. You know, and I do speak from personal experience, as you know, and my daughter's forever on at me and saying, do they need help? Can I do anything? Can I do something? You know, so I really think, again, the lockdown just took our eye off the ball with a lot of these things, and weeks and months go by, don't they? And there's nothing there for these people, and I think we do need to have some sort of organisation and have a hub that they can go to for different things and different problems. And it's one of those, you just need to brainstorm it with a lot of other people. Sorry for being politically incorrect by saying brainstorm, but you know what I mean.
I didn't know it was.
Apparently so, yeah.
Well, maybe that is the way forward, if we bring some of the, you know, if we can try and make connections with youth in the community and have a sit down with them and see what they think would be a good idea, rather than us as adults just going, oh, that's a good idea. We should be talking to the young people. Phil, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the situation with the tablets or the kit that we might need to buy. There is no way Maghull Town Council can afford to buy enough kit for the schools and the children's centre, so it would need partnership working. But what I wanted from the committee was a sort of pointer to say, can you have a look at that and see what we can do? What other funding can we bring in? What partners can we bring in? But I wanted to start off by checking with the likes of the children's centre and the schools. Is that demand there? Because if the schools suddenly all go back and there's no demand for it, there's no point getting a load of kit and then, you know, it just sits there not being used. So we're probably just on the cusp of them deciding when the schools are going to go back. So if we come away from this and you're okay, one of the things Siobhan and I will do will investigate what the schools and the children's centre think is needed in the next few weeks, couple of months.
Yeah, because one of that thing could be PPE, because I know the schools are having to pay for the PPE out of their own budgets, and they're really struggling. Right, okay, is everybody happy with this report? Are we happy to go on to the next one?
Sorry, Sean, can I just come in a sec?
Yeah, go on.
On the issues with children, you know, I've got some issues with, obviously, my grandson, etc. There is some help out there in that lots of helplines, things online, etc. But not everybody knows about them. Is there any way we can sort of like do a research on what help is actually out there? I don't mean CAMS, because they take forever. But, you know, all the helplines and the organisations. could we put together some sort of contact list which we can share with people? I mean, the children's centre might have something similar, so that people will know who they can call.
We can do
Say
that.
again. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Right.
Sorry, can I just on the back of that there, Claire, with Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea, Sean. And I mean, I have, again, my daughter, and I'm sure Ross is aware of stuff like this. There is organisations out there that can help, and I've spoken to a lot of them, and I've been like with them and done Zoom meetings and you name it. And I've addressed to Phil, one of them in particular. I think what I'm getting at as well is a lot of kids that at a certain age won't do face-to-face, they won't pick up the phone, and they really isolate themselves, and they can only do like face-to-face out somewhere out in the open. So what I'm trying to get is like, can we organise something that we can sort of concentrate on that as well? Because there is a lot of organisations out there and they're all brilliant, but there's certain things that it just misses out in, and you do need that face-to-face connection, but not across a screen.
So it's getting the happy medium then, isn't it, for all the kids?
Yeah.
Right, okay. And no, has anybody else got any more questions before I move on?
Claire, just a couple of things to wrap up. The Christmas tree we got as approved, and that was installed at the entrance to KGV. It did last 2 or 3 weeks before little blighters ripped the lights off it. It's now being removed by Alex's team, but the commitment is to buy a living tree. That was agreed at full council. Siobhan's been doing some pricing today, so it looks like we're going to have to spend circa £100 to buy a 6 to 7 foot Christmas tree, and the best time to plant it is late winter, early spring. So what we're intending to do, if you're okay, is to use, there is an underspend in the Christmas activities budget, I think, of £100 at least. So we'll use that money to get the living tree, and it will be planted sometime late February, early March, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. We've been asking for a living tree for a long time. It's very welcome, is it not, Councillor Mullen?
Okay. The other thing was that Sean wanted to talk about preview.
Just going to bring Councillor Ferguson in. He wants to bring up an item on this under this topic. Councillor Ferguson, I'll leave it over to you. Sorry, Doherty, Councillor Doherty.
I was going to say, you're bewildering me.
Okay, so I've been working with residents of Treeview Court and the police. There's been quite a bit of antisocial behaviour there, where people coming in from outside Maghull and actually using the doorways of Treeview Court, the stairwell, to actually supply the local kids with drugs. I've found deal packs. I've chased kids myself. To be fair, I've been speaking to Inspector Swan, who's been putting extra patrols up there, and I've been speaking to the landlords of London, who are sure they're going to put extra strong doors on both sides and stuff to stop the kids climbing over the balcony, etc. So there's work happening now with a lot of help from IDC, who are the estate agents involved. But I know IDC have spoken to Maghull and Bloom about if they can sort of help with making Treeview Court look better, because it's an eyesore to look outside. I just wonder if there's anything we can look at doing in our programme to help Treeview Court externally look better. Now, as I did say before, my daughter is a resident, but that's not the way I'm doing it. I'm doing it because we need this stuff to stop. And it is, it's a run into the station. It'll look nice to people. It'll look better. So I don't know what we can do to make it look better. That was it, really.
I think the station volunteers are involved in Treeview Court, not Maghull and Bloom, isn't it?
Sorry, you're right. Station volunteers, are talking to them, But obviously that would involve some investment from someone. I don't know if they've got any money, but we probably haven't got a lot either. But is there anything we can do to work with these people to make it a better place for the shoppers, for the people who use it, and for the residents?
Maghull and Bloom do plant. So Maghull and Bloom do work there. They won't be doing anything at the moment, but as spring approaches, they do the planting along the front there. So Maghull and Bloom are involved.
I just wonder if there's anything else we can do, because it's not the best looking place, is it? I said I am working with the police and the landlords to stop the antisocial behaviour. And it's actually quite intimidating. I went last week and there was like 6 lads there, 18, 20, and there was little packets of deal bags of drugs all over the stairs. And I chased them, but that's quite a risky thing to do anyway, but I just wonder what we can do.
Councillor Mullen?
Yeah, so I'm just going that one on everything today. Yeah, my sister lives up there. I think she's your daughter's neighbour. And I'm aware this has been going on for quite some time, to be honest with you. I think we've actually spoke about it in meetings past. I know the police do. They sort of have been trying to help. They were saying there is going to be new strong doors. I think the problem is as well, what they were doing was they were actually, even though you're putting the security doors on, they were actually climbing up the wall and getting over that way. I mean, I don't know if you just want to put it onto the police. I think one of the best things that they can do is them shutter gates. You know, the one like that, and get them locked and shut all the time. Because they're just coming in and climbing over. So I think it's not the best looking thing in the world, but I think that security is going to really help, to be honest with you.
But that would actually either be down to the landlord,
yeah,
or the ward councillors if the land belongs to Sefton.
Well, that's what I've said, because my sister said to me a few times, and I said it's not. You know, it's down to the landowners. It's them who've got to do it. But I agree with you. It's not the nicest looking place in the world. But they do put flowers and stuff up. I have seen.
Yeah.
Around that area.
It does look lovely in the spring because they have hanging baskets and they do all the flower beds at the front.
But I know it's an ongoing thing. I don't know if you agree with me. Anybody else? It's been a.
Yeah, can I just come in? The landlord has set up. The estate agent set up a WhatsApp group now for all the tenants. So there's been a lot of activity in the last week. They are talking about putting 2 strong doors, top and bottom, so the kids can't climb over the top door, come to the bottom door, because that's what they're happening. And they're talking about putting anti-vandal paint on all the bits where they climb up. And I spoke to the shop in the corner, whatever it is, little supermarket today, and they're going to have a look at their route, so they can stop and getting up there as well. But I do think having the gates in the car park might help. That's something I'll take up with the landlord. So we're now a London company, the new landlords. Yeah, I just wonder if there's anything at all we can do to, I don't know, improve the area. It's what the residents are saying to me. They want the area improved as well.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, unless we own the land, there's not a lot we can do. As Phil said, Maghull and Bloom are active there, and so are the station volunteers. So there is that. But regards to the actual land around it, I think it's actually privately owned. It's not owned by the council. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because I've had a similar situation in my ward, but we own the land. So I had to pay for out of my ward funds to put the gates in, to sort the tarmac out, to make sure there's flowers in there. But the one thing I will say to you, Councillor Doherty, is when I went out with the police last year on Mischief Night, I spent 2 nights with British Transport Police on Maghull Station. And what they were doing is they have got a very strong presence through, I think it's about 3 nights in the week. I think it's Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And they were staying at that station, and any kids that come off that train who didn't live in Maghull were getting sent straight back home again. So I think once lockdown's over, that will continue to happen, especially if you've spoken to Duncan Swan about it, because he will make sure that comes back online again. So there's that side. But regarding it being prettified, I'll bring Phil in and see if he can put anything on top of what I've just said.
I think what you said, right, Claire, if it's owned by a private landlord, there's little we can do to the property and surrounds. We can support the likes of Maghull and Bloom and the station volunteers to do what they're doing around it. I don't know if Councillor Hughes' little outs have been anywhere near Treeview, but you know, the hands are tied. We can't make any physical alterations to anyone else's property.
Councillor Hughes, have you got any comments about graffiti or?
We briefly ran through Treeview Court, but at the time it wasn't too bad. But this was a while ago now, so I haven't seen the situation since.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Doherty, sorry, I keep getting. Do you want to come in, Councillor Ferguson? Sorry.
Yeah, it just sort of confirms what Councillor Doherty was saying. It confirms to me I've gone past there maybe once or twice in the last 3 weeks. And each time I've gone past, there's been, shall we say, North Face ninjas all around the doorway there. So, yeah, that sort of confirms as to what's going on by the looks of it.
Other labels of clothes are available. And my son wears North Face.
So do I. So do I, Councillor. You might notice.
Councillor Doherty, so I keep getting you two mixed up, I'm sorry. Sean,
It's probably the hairstyles, Claire. It's the hairstyles, that's what it is. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. And as I said, I thought that was the case anyway. But yeah, I'll keep on with the landlords, and I'll keep on with the police. To be fair, they are putting an effort in. Yeah. BT at the moment, I spoke to BT police last week. At the moment, their nearest bobby was Crewe. They're a bit short-handed at the moment. They said if you're calling for an emergency, they take 2 hours to get there. So,
yeah, well, I think the lad I spoke to, funnily enough, was from Sheffield.
Yeah, well, there you go. So yeah, so I'm just giving us. I just want to make everybody aware of it, and you know, but to be fair, Inspector Swan, Sergeant Clark, is it, are doing the best.
Well, so just all you can do is just keep reporting it to the police, because the more you report it, the bigger it gets built up, as you're aware, and then it becomes the hotspot unless it's getting reported. And I'll say that to any members of public who are listening as well. Unless you report it to the police to get crime number, the police won't do anything. You're best just reporting it. Then they can build up a profile. Then they will act. Okay, so we'll move swiftly on then to the next item on the agenda, which is grant advisor. Members are invited to consider the report on pages 9 to 14.
Okay. This is something that Siobhan and I have done a little bit of research around. We've been tasked by council to look at how to attract more external funding than what we have in the past. And the idea came to us that it might be worth investing in data sets to look at where the funding is available, what projects are available, the themes of. So Siobhan kindly arranged a demonstration, online demonstration from a company called iDocs, who have 2 or 3 different splinters of this. We went for the grant advisor service, which is to simply give you the data sets for the areas of interest that you've got. And we looked at the community and public sector data sets. We just did a skim through how it would work. I've used these in the past, and they can be very effective. The thing is, you need to have the projects lined up, and then you can actually look at what funding is available to back it up. The good thing about this is that you get the information in real time. So the minute something comes online from whatever source, be it government, be it philanthropists, be it whatever type of organisation, you will get alerted. If you've actually said that's something that you're interested in trying to apply for, you'll get alerted. So you shouldn't miss out on anything. They are, I think there's no reason to disbelieve them. They're the biggest company in Europe who hold these data sets. There are other options, but they don't seem to have the comprehensive range or width of knowledge that we were looking for. When he showed us, I was impressed straight away, because there was 3 local funds that I've been looking at in different capacities, which were flagged up straight away, which wouldn't necessarily spring to mind. So to me, just at a glance, it seemed to have the minutiae in there, the detail in there, that you could apply on a local level, as well as the big hitters nationally. The advantage this will give us, apart from actually giving us the information, is that it would save the likes of Siobhan and myself a lot of time from trawling through looking for funding. What we've been told to steer clear of, though, is, oh, that looks like an easy fund to apply for. Let's just apply for it. We've been told in no uncertain terms, have the project and then go for the funding, and then you get what you want. So as a council and as a committee, we need to determine our priorities and then look at what funding's available to back that up. Now, as I've said in the report, it's not cheap. It's 1,600 quid for the 2 data sets. If it's approved, we could take it out of the underspend of the budget this year. There's a couple of pots which still have some money left in. And I suppose, in a nutshell, it's speculating to accumulate. Certainly, I know the clerk is saying that if we're going to spend that money, she's looking for at least a return of £3,000 on that. Yeah. I would hope we would get more. You know, if we're lucky, we could hit a big payday and find a project for the parks and attract a lot of money. But there's a lot of other projects. I mean, just referring to the antisocial behaviour problem around Treeview, there's nothing to stop us looking to see if there's a community project which might help tackle youth antisocial behaviour. a lot of these funds, although the council can apply for them, require third-party voluntary organisations to actually deliver on the ground. So again, I'd see that as a bonus because it gives us a stimulus to try and get people together and say, look, if you can get a little group here together to help improve your environment or whatever it may be, we can apply for this money and then you can get control of that money and spend it in your area. As there's no guarantee of success, but as I say, we all appreciate the budget right across the board as being constrained, to say the least. And this would seem to be a worthwhile consideration to see if we can actually bring in significant amounts of external funding throughout the course of the year. We do have the money in the budget for this year to acquire it, and we would have a subscription if it's agreed for a year. So obviously I'd expect the council and particularly yourselves to monitor how that works and what successes we have and whether it proves to be worthwhile in the course of a year.
I'll bring you in a minute, Councillor Mullen. If we apply for this, will we get we would, if we go to agree as a committee, sorry, can't get my words out. I think I would be in agreement with the rest of the group if we would say we'd like regular updates to the committee. Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Mullen.
Phil, you said it was 1,600. Is it 1,600 plus VAT, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we definitely have got the funds running over from last year. We have got it to cover.
Oh, now you lost me. Yeah, we've got underspending the budget on certainly on youth and on neighbourhood activities. We've got underspend which we could use. Obviously, I have to go to the finance officer and get that approved. The clerk, I've had a chat with Angela already. She's happy with this. She thinks it's something that we should explore.
Okay, can I just put an idea in then, if this is something we're going to go for ideas? We did say last year about doing the natural garden, you know, like the insect thing and stuff like that, and trying to get people in. And I think that's something, again, say mental health and stuff like that, can get involved in.
I think what I'd like to do is if we get approval, we'll go back to the guy tomorrow and say we're up for it. I'll then send a communication out to all councillors saying if you've got any ideas for projects you'd like funding, but we need to shortlist it then, because obviously we can't do everything. We need to prioritise. So we do that, and then I think, as you've just said, you need to monitor it against progress made against those projects and where we get. And if we hit any particular barriers, we'll come back and say this isn't working for whatever reason. On the counter side of that, if we're making big strides forward, we'll come back and say this looks like it's going to work. Would there be anything else you want along those lines? Because it looks like we're going to succeed with this. Interestingly, the guy we spoke to from IDOCS, he's saying there's now a little surge in third sector funding coming out of COVID. More funders are coming forward with more pots of money. So it seems to be a good time now to test the waters.
Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, just for some clarity on it, that's an annual payment, is it? If we continue it and it'd renew every year. So as you say, we've got chance to monitor it, speculate to accumulate, and see how it works out for us at the end of the year. Yeah. And if it hasn't really come up trumps, we can then, we're not under any contract. We just finish. That's
finish.
That's good. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just a quick one. I think people, I've spoken to some people about it. I'm a little concerned about IDOCS because I know there's a lot in the press about them that's already rubbish, but they are a controversial company, which it just makes me wonder whether we should be looking at them. But my other concern is whether we would have been better considering the other options as well.
In what way are they a controversial organisation? Can you say on this chat?
Right, I don't want to get into full details in an open meeting because I've only read one media article on it, but I know that there's been problems with IDOC with a contract with local government that's been reported in the last few days.
And I know what you're talking about. I've just Googled it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but for the purposes of our use of IDOCs,
Yeah.
that's not really.
Well, no,
something
that's why
yeah.
I kind of said I can see that it's not a massive concern to us, but it's out there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, when you look through it, I don't know if anybody else has just had a little Google of it as well.
I put it in the Labour WhatsApp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Phil,
that's why, just as a record, that's why I choose my words carefully, because there's a lot of rubbish out there as well as.
Yeah. Well, do we need to vote on this tonight, Phil?
No, I mean, we're under no obligation. We've got no timescales or deadlines that we're working to. If you want me to go away and do a bit more research, I'm more than happy to do that. I can't get into Google at the moment, so I can't actually see what Jonathan's referring to. But Jonathan, if you could email me with that article, that would be useful for me to have a look at.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, if we're all agreed, maybe let Phil go back and do a bit more research, and maybe we can all do a little bit of research on it and see if it's something that we're happy to go forward with.
But what it is, I'd kind of read around it, but then as I've just been Googling now, I've kind of realised that it might not be as straightforward as what I thought it was, which is why I'm hesitating.
Well, can I suggest, given that we're looking at funding, I'm going to put this forward as a suggestion. Well, and I don't know whether I'm going to need seconding for this suggestion. I would suggest to the group that we go away and ask our officers to do a bit more research, speak to the clerk, and if they're comfortable and we're comfortable with it, could we ask for an extraordinary meeting? Because I know you're saying you'd rather wait for the next meeting, but I'm thinking jumping on this, if this is something that we can go forward with, jumping on the bandwagon to get some funding is something that we need to look at rather fast. Would everybody else agree with that? Councillor Ferguson? Okay, Phil.
Yeah, I know what Jonathan's saying, and you do have reservations about essentially being associated with certain companies, but I also understand the other side where we could be missing vital opportunities if we don't act soon. So I definitely am with you for the proposal of an extraordinary meeting.
Okay, thank you. Phil?
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that's fine. We need an extraordinary meeting because if we're going to go for it, if you choose to go for it at the end, we need to get it done and dusted before the end of the financial year if we want to pay out of the underspend. Debbie's starting to close down now, so it shouldn't be the main driver behind your decision, but it just needs to be borne in mind. If we waited too long, we'd have to pay for it out of next year's budget, which, as we already talked about, is reduced. Let me and Siobhan do some quick searching, and we'll get back to you next week. And then I'll email a contact and say this is what we found out, and then if we call a meeting on the back of that, just a one-item agenda.
Yeah, one-item agenda.
See if people are happy or not. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably be just to let the group know if we are going to do this. The meeting will be very short, so yeah. Okay, so that's what we've decided to do, and Councillor Ferguson's second and that. Is everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we move on to the next item, digital inclusion verbal update.
Thanks, Chair. It was just to say, one of the things that's come out of the pandemic is the ongoing desperate need for greater digital inclusion across the town, as much as anywhere else. Maghull historically has missed out on digital initiatives because it isn't considered to be deprived enough. I've been banging away at Sefton CVS saying, can we have some support? We've got elderly people in particular who are isolated during the pandemic, can't access online shopping, can't access banking, etc. So the new Maghull Community Connector, Louise, has managed to get a commitment from the Liverpool ICT, Lauren Jones, I've worked with in the past, that they will help and support digital exclusion work in Maghull. So I know you'll probably all be in favour of it. So just to give you the heads up that I'm going to be pursuing that and see if we can get some virtual clinics set up, so we can get people to set emails up, to access online banking, to access online shopping. It'll be very basic, but it might just be a lifeline to people, particularly as we're still stuck in isolation at the moment. What we're going to have to work on is though how we reach those people, which will have to be through third parties if they're isolating. So maybe friends and family can help them, get them a device and show them how it works. But with the help of SEFT and CVS, even if we get, you know, a dozen or 20 odd people involved, it would be a big step forward. And then once we come out of lockdown, we may do some more actual real workshops with people in say like the parish hall or somewhere like that. Okay.
Any questions for Phil on that?
Frank has.
Right, okay. Can I just ask that you put your hand icon up, because I can only see 4 pictures. So, Councillor Sharp, would you like to come in?
Oh yeah, that's great. I thought you ignored me there, Claire. You know, last half an hour. Yeah, it was just about the inclusion, on digital inclusion. The Silver Surfers at the U3A, I think, is another group that promotes and teaches digital skills for elderly people as well, isn't there? So that might be something to think about, of course.
Yeah, we need someone to link in with, Frank. So someone like that would be ideal. So if you've got a contact there, let me know, and I'll reach out to them and see if we can work together.
It should be easy enough to find somebody.
Yeah. Okay.
I also know that
I think John Sayers has been there a few times for various things, hasn't he, Yvonne? Yeah.
Right. Yvonne's nodding, yeah. So yes.
I'll just say, I know Hudson Family Centre, they do a digital inclusion sort of lesson, so they might be something as well that you could put it through there. Okay.
So there was one more thing as well, Claire. I wasn't able to get noticed before about the laptops for children earlier on. I sent a link to Phil there while we were talking. It was simply the co-op have linked with someone called Portland, and they're looking for unused laptops, etc. So they've been doing this for quite some months now. So again, Becky Wickstead, the manageress at the co-op, might be a useful person to ask, because she's obviously been collecting these laptops for quite some time now.
I did put up on the social media site a few weeks ago about the BBC scheme. So I know there's different schemes going on, but if we can find the ones that are most helpful to people in Maghull, then obviously they're the ones we need to link in with.
Okay, so if that's everything, I'll move on to the next item, which is again a verbal update regarding volunteering.
Yeah, this is just to advise, we have an ongoing discussion. It's like a 3-way discussion between the SEFT and CVS Community Connector, the community champion at Morrison's, and ourselves, checking to see if we need to reinstigate the volunteer shopping project that we had on the first lockdown. It seems that most people are catered for, but the community champion at Morrison's says they're getting absolutely battered with demand from people, and they are just about keeping their heads above water in terms of delivery. So Louise from SEFT and CVS has suggested that maybe some volunteers could help out in certain circumstances. So I'm just having a conversation with them. There's certainly a number of the volunteers who are quite keen to carry on doing stuff. But I just don't want to make them feel obliged to be working for Morrison's on the cheap. To be fair, Morrison's are looking for a van driver to be paid for 16 hours a week. So I've put that out as well. So if you know of anyone who wants a part-time job driving a van, Morrison's were looking for someone last week to deal with the extra capacity they're having to deal with.
Have they got the van supplying?
I think so, yeah. I think from the sounds of it, they just needed someone to actually drive it, which I found surprising. I thought they'd find someone, but the champion there was saying, no, they'd struggled to find anyone. So I'm quite keen to keep this group of volunteers going, because they've been really good and helped out with the hamper deliveries before Christmas. So if there's any people that you come across who need help or are isolated, and could do with support from a volunteer in terms of something like shopping. Some of the volunteers said they're quite happy just to ring people up and check that they're okay. But I'll also be circulating an email to councillors within the next week, just asking for those people who were doing the ring round in the first lockdown, would they do it again, just to check that the people we were working with are okay. I know some councillors have carried on doing it, but just want to double check that we're not missing anyone and no one's falling between the net.
Okay. Councillor Mullen, do you want to speak?
Yes.
Yeah, it was just to say, Phil, yeah, to be honest with you, I haven't got the numbers anymore, so the numbers you gave me, I'm quite willing to do it again. But as far as I know, they did have family that were helping them. There was just one concern of one lady, which she did end up in a home, and its daughter stopped contacting me, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to it, to be honest with you.
Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at the list. There may be changes that have come about since we went through that list before Christmas. Yeah. And then I'll recirculate it to the councillors who were involved and see if we can just touch base with those people again. But if you know circumstances have changed and people have moved, then obviously let me know and we'll take them off the list.
Brilliant.
Okay. Community grant application 2122. Members are invited to consider the application from Maghull and Bloom, which was presented to Finance and General Purposes Committee on the 9th of December 2002. That's on pages 15 to 16.
Chair, this was just really a courtesy because it's already gone through Finance and General Purposes as we agreed last year. But you need to be aware of the committee that £2,000 are going to come out of the community grants. It's been approved. I have informed the chair of Maghull and Bloom that they will get paid in April when the new financial year starts. They're always way ahead of the curve, but she's getting all the ducks in a row. They've been very successful in attracting lottery grants to the tune of about £12,000, I think. So they've done well, and they're getting geared up and to be good to go when the weather changes. So fingers crossed, this will just give them that extra bit of support so they can carry on doing work around the square and the likes of Tree View, etc. They've also sent an email to me tonight saying that they've invested in some new wooden planters around the square because the old ones were rotten. So you may see if you walk around that there are new square-shaped wooden planters in the square.
Do they have our name on them?
They don't have any name on them at the moment. They're just blank bits of wood, but they will badge them up with our name. That's what they've said in the past.
Okay. Any comments on that report? No? Councillor Mullen?
Yeah, no, I just think it's brilliant that we can still give them the money, because I think it's a lovely thing they do, and they do keep Maghull looking nice, and it is nice to look. And just one question, I don't know if I've ever asked this before. Does London and Cambridge donate to them, or?
London and Cambridge, after a lot of umming and ahhing, do water the plants that they provide in the square, which it takes a lot of a burden potentially away from us. So it's a contribution in kind more than money. But
so you just water the plants.
Yeah. The other thing Maghull and Bloom do, which several of their members have commented on, is that they're actually working with Maghull and Bloom is helping their mental well-being. Because they're elderly and isolated otherwise, and it is a circle of friends as much as anything else. And it's proven a healthy release for a lot of them, that they can get out and do a little bit here and there, as well.
I just think it's fantastic when you go through the square and there's about 4 of them like round one pot, and you can just totally enjoy it, don't they? So I just think it's great that we're still able to give them the money.
I was just thinking, Phil, you were mentioning earlier on about doing a pensioners' lunch and whatnot within the community. If we can stretch to it, and if councillors are in agreement, maybe when we can actually, might not even be this year, maybe do an afternoon tea for the volunteers at Maghull and Bloom, just to say thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, if that's what you want to do. And when we're on, I think acknowledgements of the efforts that people have been putting in that type of way would be really appreciated, and it would help build community spirit. So I'm more than happy to do that when we're allowed. Yeah,
and maybe invite, the winners of our garden, maybe get them involved. Yeah. And it's a way of connecting the dots that are around the area. If everybody's agreed with that, I think that would be something nice to just say thank you for making Maghull look pretty and the work that they do.
Yeah. although where we'd host her at the moment is another matter, because
Well,
everything we've
it
got
could be
is
next
full.
year.
And I don't think the vaccination centre's going far in the near future.
It could be next year, Phil, but you
Yeah.
know, I think that's something we should put on the work programme for
Yeah.
in the future. Right, okay, that brings us to the last item on the agenda, which is my report, which is basically a list of thank yous. So firstly, I would like to thank Phil, yourself and Siobhan for all your hard work over the last 12 months and your ongoing hard work, especially with Christmas, but everything that you do for this committee. So thank you to the both of you. We would be lost without you. I would also like to thank Councillor Mullen and her lovely husband Carl and all the councillors and officers who helped with the floods. As you're aware, we were out till 2:30, was it, Dee? 2:30 in the morning, and we knocked on 400 houses. We were worn out, but we kept our chins up. It was fun, and the police and the emergency services were absolutely brilliant. One thing we did notice, though, me and the police officer who I was going round with was, and this is something that we should really discuss in the next meeting and put it in our community budget, is the amount of houses that were not secure. And the police officers had to mention to elderly people, elderly men and women, your door's not locked, lock your door. And that was something that did concern me, given the amount of opportunist burglaries in the area. Maybe we could do something in conjunction with the police moving forward. And I would like to thank Councillor Sharp for Bobby's Wood and his ongoing work there. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Well done for all your hard work. And finally, I would like to thank Councillor Hughes and our Mayor, Councillor Burns, for cleaning up the mess of the graffiti that was left all around Maghull. Brilliant job to you all, and thank you to everybody I've mentioned on that list for all your help and support in making Maghull lovely. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. There's one thing I forgot to mention. We might want to do a bit of consultation work with the people threatened by floods. I know Councillor McKinley's taking the lead on potential flood committee, but I think there's some communication work needs to be done there, and like securing the properties, you know, making sure people are, the stuff there we can do. It will require a bit of door knocking, but it's definitely something I'll be having a conversation with the clerk about in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Okay, so if that's all, I would like to bring this meeting to a close. Thank everyone for attending, and any members of the public that I attended. I hope you found it informative and fun. And take care and stay safe.
Thank you.